Welcome to the Adapt to Advance Modern Fundraising for Changing Times, a panel discussion to explore how nonprofits can evolve to strengthen our fundraising through effective messaging, meeting funders where they are, and digital resources like AI. There will be a short time for Q&A at the end after the discussion, and a small breakout. I know we're going to have to kind of figure out how we're going to work that in this room, but just a small breakout where we can discuss how you can apply some of the things we've talked about to your work. Before I introduce the panelists and we dive into the discussion, I'm going to paint a little bit of the picture for the topic. We're close to Nashville, so it seems fitting to reference a country song. There is a country song that says, I guess the only thing that ever stays the same is things change. We are living in a constantly shifting landscape. I know you all know this. Everyone knows about the funding cuts at the federal level. Market volatility has been impacting giving within the already shifting generosity marketplace in America. And the cost to deliver services is rising. You know, just this year, it was announced that Imagination Library books, the cost of books and mailing were going up 17%, which is $1 million cost increase for the whole state. Within this environment, nonprofits and the fundraisers who work for them are met with pressure from both sides. The pressure to meet the rising needs that we're seeing, and also the increasing challenges in procuring the funding necessary to meet those needs. Now, this pressure from both sides has, to some extent, always been there for fundraisers. We know this. But it's particularly acute now, especially considering the demand for fundraisers and the juxtaposition of fundraiser burnout. Surveys in the past couple of years have shown that almost 50% of fundraisers plan to leave their organization within the next 2 years. And 10% of them plan to leave the sector entirely. At the same time, or perhaps because of these shifts, there is a big demand. LinkedIn, just this year, listed Director of Development as number 7 on the list of the top 25 jobs on the rise in the U.S. And Grants Consultant was number 15, which means that your fundraisers have more opportunity to leave, but there's also a shortage of people who can fill their empty roles. In this environment, we have to think smarter. We have to get creative, because other, I would argue, bigger changes have been happening too. Changes that can revolutionize how nonprofits work and fundraise. Technology is advancing at an unprecedented rate. And paired with strategic communication of impact, it offers incredible opportunity to meet today's challenges with innovation, openness, and solutions. Solutions that can free funders to do what we love doing and drive revenue for the nonprofit without all of the busy work. Tools like AI and low-cost digital marketing strategies give us the opportunity to adapt. And the need for nonprofits to adapt has never been greater. In these times, we have to effectively support our funders' interests, share our story with the public and our donors in a way that feels genuine and current and vital. And finally, to improve how we do our work, so we can better serve our missions. With tech, and particularly AI, changing how work is being done globally, it is my concern that the organizations and fundraisers who don't lean into this change will be left behind. So when everyone else might be feeling the urge to step back, saying this is so hard, there's not enough, I'm tired, forget that. See the possibility, see the opportunity, step forward, adapt to advance. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So my name is Abby Sanderson. I'm the Director of Development at Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. Today in our panel discussion, we're going to be discussing funder interests and the case for change, reimagining fundraising through communication that connects, developing smarter systems and tech to support your work, and redefining the role of a fundraiser within the nonprofit. I'm very honored to be joined by our panelists today. We have Missy Acosta, Senior Vice President of Brand Experience at Delta Dental of Tennessee, where she oversees basically everything publicly facing, as well as corporate social responsibility and government relations. Delta Dental is a prominent funder of education and health causes in Tennessee and one of the earliest supporters of Imagination Library in the state. Colin Mayer, Phil said first. Phil said first. We trust Phil Wank. We have Colin Mayer, CEO at The Store. Founded by Kimberly and Brad Paisley, The Store works to fight food insecurity in Nashville and beyond. They've been doing some really fantastic work around storytelling and simple communication of their impact, so I urge you to check it out online. Also look at Colin's LinkedIn page. He posts some really beautiful stories that really, when a fundraiser gets the bug, you know that it's good storytelling. So he does a really, really good job. Cameron Bartlett, a digital fundraising and social impact consultant who has led award-winning digital marketing campaigns for organizations like New Story, IJM, Compassion, World Vision, and Cure. And he's taught digital marketing at dozens of conferences, podcasts, and as an instructor at UNC Chapel Hill. I encourage you to check out his work online. There's a lot of great resources on there as well. And finally, but definitely not least, Miranda Shirk, Senior Data Scientist and Lecturer at Vanderbilt University, where she researches large language models and artificial intelligence. Big causes are important to Miranda. She's worked as a data scientist at NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and is a strong advocate of neurodiverse education and workforces. So before we talk solutions, we have to understand the landscape, how the ground is shifting beneath us, and a little bit of why adapting is no longer optional. So my first question, Missy, is for you. As someone supporting nonprofits across the state, what's changing for funders within this environment, and what shifts are you seeing in how funders evaluate value, impact, and partnership today?
Appreciate that, Abby. Well, I think one thing to know what's not changing is budgets. From a funding perspective, anytime the economy constricts or is threatened to constrict, corporate philanthropy is one of the first things that gets put on hold, if not completely cut out. So I can tell you from what I've experienced with Delta Dental, and we are a not-for-profit, so we're not your typical corporation, but we do still have to make money to be able to give money. But my budget is probably a little less than what it was in 2019. We were able to give more money in 2020 to help compensate some there, but it has been flat, if not reduced, for every year since 2020. So that's something to keep in mind. I think one thing that funders are becoming much more strategic in what they're deciding to give to. They're looking, that may be spawned, and this is a trend that has been coming along for some time. For those of you who do grants and grant requests, you probably have encountered the software programs or software as a service where you have to do all of the follow-up with your grant and kind of just prove the money you were given was directed to where it was supposed to go. Those tools have become more sophisticated, less expensive, and easier to use. So you've got the three things working from a funder's perspective. Being able to do that follow-up has probably made your jobs a little harder, I think. Sorry. But I also, as Abby said, one of my roles I do marketing. So Marketing is what pays my salary. I have to put that hat on first every single time. So along with that strategy of people becoming more strategic in how they're giving, and I'm speaking for corporate funders, not necessarily a family foundation. Those work under different rules. But I want to know, how can we make this a win-win for both of us in the relationship? You have boards of directors that may be officers in companies that we want to sell our services to. So finding those alignments, finding those areas of where you have that connection. I mentioned briefly 2020. Adapting things in 2020 was essential. We sponsor about over 100 different events, and most of those events were completely wiped off in 2020. We still had the budget. I still had the dollars to give away, but I know if I'm putting money into an event, that's like seed funding for you to be able to raise more money. So what we were able to do was really challenge people. I'm not just going to write you a check. I want you to turn that check into more money. So, for example, with TPAC, we did a matching campaign that returned about $4 for every $1 in that match. They were hoping that our match would be $3 for every $1 they raised. So that was reversed. We had a children's hospital in Jackson, Tennessee, $50,000, and they almost tripled that match with a radiothon in Jackson, Tennessee. So, those things, they exist, and what we were able to get out of that is every time TPAC did a social post about their matching grant, funds matched by Delta Dental of Tennessee. That helped me. So think about things like that for the organizations that you want to reach out for. And look for how we can, basically matching those objectives. What are your objectives? Who are you serving? How does that relate to our business?
Thank you so much. And that's something that it's easy to miss. When we're so busy in the asking, we forget that our funders also have people they report to and goals they have to meet. And so being sensitive to that is very important. Colin, as CEO of the store, what changes are you experiencing in day-to-day fundraising, and how have you adapted your message to be simple and aligned with what donors really care about?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for what you all do. I'm really glad to be talking to you. As far as adapting goes, I think often it means just doing the basics really, really well and consistently. I don't think in the fundraising landscape right now there's this kind of shiny new thing we all need to be going after. I think it's doing the basics well. So what would some of those be? First, I think when we think about going out into the community, going to funders, it's fine to talk about need, it's fine to talk about urgency, but if that's all we're ever talking about is, this is urgent, this is the most important thing ever, you've got to give now, that can lead to a lot of fatigue. So we really want to be thinking about how we're building a relationship over time, and certainly there'll be time to ask and there'll be time to talk about urgency, but that can't be the whole of your message, or it won't land really well. You talk about simplifying the message. I think it's absolutely key. Figuring out what your core message is and then hammering it in again and again and again. You will get tired of saying your message a lot quicker than people will be tired of hearing it, because we're in it day to day. We say this, we have our core messages, but people that are not familiar with your organizations, they're going to need to hear it again and again and again across multiple channels. So that's really important. And then again, when we're talking about storytelling, the story can't always just be about dire need. It's good to talk about the need. We're addressing food insecurity. The need is huge right now. But if that's all we ever talk about, it can get to the point where the problem seems so big, and people will think, well, I give and I give and I give, and you just come back to me and say it's growing, it's growing, it's growing. So taking time to storytell stories of success, customer testimonials, those sorts of things, mix that in with need. So you're showing need but you're also showing solution and you're showing what results look like. Funders need to hear that whole story to feel compelled to give. And then a last one that we probably shouldn't have to say, but maybe we need to say it, is not treating our funders and our supporters like ATMs. Like they're our partners in this work, and they give because they want to make an impact. They want to be able to put their name and their brand and their stamp on what is happening out there. So if we're only coming to them every time asking for needs, but without doing the other things to make them feel like partners, then they're not going to want to invest with us. Right before I came here, I was having lunch with a company wanting to get involved with, and that's where I start, is saying we're not just looking for a check. We're looking for a long-term relationship that involves volunteering, certainly that might involve financial, but it involves a long-term discussion of how the kind of impact we want to make in the community together. So.
Thank you so much. I love the simplicity that you go for in your messaging at the store. I think so many times we think that we have to tailor everything to our donor or a funder, and that we have to just get what's their sweet spot. Let's find that sweet spot and go for it. But I think that the idea of continuing to just say the same thing over and over again, in some ways, it makes our job easier because we're like, okay, this is the message. Let's just go back to the message. So now that we've named some of the changes, let's talk about, and we've talked about some of the strategies. Let's talk about how we show up, because what we say and how we say it and how well it resonates, it matters, right? So Cameron, the next question is for you. Donor expectations have shifted over time. Attention spans are shorter, and people want to feel connected and involved, not like an ATM. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the digital trends that are happening. What does effective storytelling look like in this environment, and what is one thing organizations can do to improve their online fundraising presence this year?
Thanks. Yeah, I love the things that people are doing with AI video. I think on 4th of July, I saw like a red, white, and blue eagle carry a couch for a furniture commercial. You know what I mean? Like, it's just wild what can happen. So what I'll say is, to start, like, that is so fun to sell furniture maybe. And you know what, if you have some wild idea of like showing, some abstract thing, showing like a child reading on the moon and it's about something about reading and whatever, right? That's great. If you're going to use it for stories that are meant to be authentic representations of the work you're doing, it's not the right place for it, right? And so what I will say is that you can still scale the work that you're doing in a really smart way. It's just choosing when to use AI in the content creation process and when not to, right? So like, for instance, you wouldn't, you shouldn't just say like, write me, 20 social posts for an education nonprofit, right? It's just going to give you the most general stuff. You're going to put it out there. It's going to get one like, and it's going to be you, And it's instead you could prompt it to prompt you, right? Like say, hey, instead of asking it to write those, say, ask me a bunch of questions about my expertise as the person who leads this organization, or about the stories of impact that we have. Like, learn about and then prompt us to put that into social posts that are really creative ideas, and then make those posts, right? But then also another great way to scale it, like once you have come up with that idea, take that and use Canva or the Adobe Suite to then take the one post that you created from that and turn it into all the different platforms you're going to post it on in one click. I think with Canva, it'll just transpose it into every platform you're going to share it on, social posts and emails and texts and all kinds of stuff, right? Instead of having it write your fundraising appeal, write something that's genuine and authentic, that really connects with your donors, and then take that one story, and similar to how you do it with images in Canva and Adobe, use Claude or Jasper AI or something like that to then take that one thing and adapt it to a landing page and a direct mail fundraising appeal and an SMS and all the other places. So it's really about like taking the one thing and then scaling it is a great way to use AI. Also with ads, for instance, there are tools out there, and for some businesses this works really well, especially ones that haven't done a lot. It'll just like scan your website and it'll just create a whole bunch of ads for you. That's great for like a local business that isn't going to take the time to run the ads themselves. But for you who's telling authentic stories that are connecting with donors, and they want to be, they want to believe what you're doing is really, firstly, we don't need to give anyone any more reasons to like doubt the work we're doing, right? So we want the content to be high quality. So what you can do is create, some really engaging ads that you can use for Meta and TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and Google and everywhere else. But then you can use their dynamic creative option within those platforms that would allow you to load in 5 or 10 different headlines and 5 or 10 different photos or videos and captions and so forth. And then what it's going to do is it's going to take all of those and make dozens or even hundreds at times different combinations of those together, so that it's going to test and learn and help you to understand what actually performs the best. And then I actually often like to start campaigns like that sometimes. We say we get everything out on, in the air, and let's just throw it into an ad to like a really like micro audience that isn't everybody, and see what performs. Well, then maybe that's going to influence how you write your emails and your direct mail and your landing pages and your everything else, right? It ends up being whatever performs the best becomes the new campaign creative and language and so forth. So.
Thank you. So yeah, it's going back to that one message, that's simplicity, and then using digital technology to just expand it out from there and really respond and be able to use what really works. Missy, next question for you. What makes a nonprofit stand out in their storytelling or communication with funders? And is there something that signals to you that a nonprofit is worth the investment today?
Thank you. I was actually taking notes on what you were saying. So I think what really stands out from a storytelling perspective and with regard to communications, this is going to sound like I'm stating the obvious. What stands out to me is when I get a request or an email or a response to a post that shows me somebody did their homework. Somebody knows who we are. They know what we do. You would be surprised. I get requests all the time asking for money from my dental office. I'm not a dental office. I sell dental insurance. So it's very important to know who it is that you're making the request to. Do your homework. Look at their social posts. It's so easy to do that homework. Finding out the social posts, the website. Look at what do they call we call it CSR, corporate social responsibility. Sometimes we call it corporate philanthropy. Some companies refer to it as ESG, and some companies even brand it under something. Find out what it is they call their community give back program and state that when you're making that approach. It lets them know, I know who you are, and I'm going to listen to what you have to say because I'm already paying attention. Again, I think sometimes that feels like I'm stating the obvious, but it's a lot of people miss that mark. With regard, we get a lot of calls. It was funny. I was actually in your role doing a moderating for a panel, and Whitney Weeks with HCA, and it was funny because a Family Foundation person said, call me up. I'd love to have coffee, talk to you. Would love to learn what your organization is all about. Whitney with HCA said, I don't have time for that. And, she's wearing multiple hats. So know your audience. Don't say, I'd like to have coffee to learn what it is that you do or what your strategy is. Do your homework. You can find that information out. And when you approach them, make it meaningful and make it impactful. With regard to what signals we may look for, I love that you use the word investment, because that is what it is for us. We are investing back in the community through organizations like yours to make the community better. We're trying to improve somebody's lives. We're trying to make an impact. And so it's very important that we do have that partnership. I'm just curious, who here has a book bus in your program? I know what you do, Melissa. Melissa is a great example of a partner in the community. We have a big event coming up this Friday. It's called Kids Dental Day. We have hundreds of kids come out to where the Nashville Sounds play baseball. The book bus is there. We have kids go on, get a book. And I mean, it's a great relationship. It shows the community this is an organization we fund, and then they're supporting us in something that's very important too. So always, I like use words like investing, like corporate social responsibility. I think those are key words. Yes. And sorry, I had to take notes before I came because I'm preparing for Kids Dental Day. But you know, when nonprofits are serving the community and you need money to do what you do, we have money to help you do that, but we want to work together. We want to have partnerships and find ways that we can engage with you, with your boards, with your constituencies, because that's where it all comes together.
We need smart systems and tools behind the scenes that help us do more with less. Miranda, my next question is for you. There's a lot of hype and hesitation around AI. What would you say to a nonprofit leader who's maybe unsure of where to begin? And could you share one grounded way to start using AI in fundraising, as well as maybe clarify the truth around some maybe myths with AI?
One misconception that I always want to clear up at the beginning on what am I talking about when I'm talking about AI, when I'm talking about ChatGPT. How you can get involved, there's a lot of ways, and I could list off, maybe a dozen ways that you could use this in fundraising. But I think maybe the one with the least amount of barriers is using it as an ideation platform. I think a lot of people do that, and it's one of the easiest ways to get involved. I will say that you get out of these tools what you put in. So find the tool that works for you. Not all of them cost money. You can go really far with some free tools. You can go really far with some local models. Using it as an ideation platform is just really lovely. Like I loved that we were talking about, don't just make AI art saying, oh, this is what we're doing, because that's not really connecting with people, right? I always say you want to use AI to do the stuff that you don't want to do. Humans love to create art. Don't let the computers create the art so that you can do the budget, right? Like flip that around. Let the AI come up with different ways you can phrase your grant title or something, or help you create ideas for grants, or help you search for grants. Like do the tedious stuff with AI so that you can go that extra mile and maybe partner with a local artist to like draw a picture related to your goal, right? Do that so that you have more time to devote to the stuff that you actually enjoy about what you're doing and the impact that you want to make. Another thing that I will say is, to plug Vanderbilt a little bit there, but we have a lot of projects with AI, and we love to partner with local organizations. Actually, in the summer, we have Data Science for Social Good, and we only partner with nonprofits in the area or labs in the area, basically people that want to make a community impact in Nashville and around the country. So this summer, I'm working with what's called LAPOP. They study global democracy around the world and ask survey questions about democracy, and they're studying stuff like that. They're a lab based in Vanderbilt, but we also have nonprofits that are aimed at helping people get law assistance, like if they need to go to court but they don't have the money to get an attorney, what are their rights, what do they need to know? So we're really, reach out, it doesn't have to be Vanderbilt, it can be any university that's studying this. We have students that want to get experience, right? Use people that have the experience to help you, because I would be delighted to work on more projects that are more focused on social good aspects.
Be careful what you wish for, Miranda. Miranda's going to go home and find 100 emails in her inbox. Thank you so much. Cameron, from your experience using AI for good, how has it transformed your work with nonprofits, and what digital strategies are helping organizations show their impact and grow their donor base?
Yeah, I think this is a really cool opportunity to talk about using AI in your actual impact model, in the work that you're doing. And so I want to be clear too, that doesn't mean replacing people or partners that are doing the work, right? It's really clear. I say that both ethically, also your donors will trust you less. Like I don't know if you all follow Duolingo on any platforms. Really, really amazing content, some of the best stuff. And then as soon as they said, we're going to be an AI company, it was just like the biggest exodus I've ever seen in tech. It was really wild. And so that being said, I want to give you a couple examples of how I've seen that work in organizations I've worked with in the past. And so with Deliver Fund, we partnered with IBM's Watson, their AI platform, to study and take down human trafficking markets. And so we would take in a bunch of data from online posts to determine patterns and recognize which ones were actually trafficking and selling children. And then we would triangulate like their locations and understand their patterns so that we could not just take down one, but actually take down the whole network of traffickers. At Stop Soldier Suicide, we actually won this like multi-million-dollar partnership with Amazon's AI platform for our Project Black Box, which allowed us to take in devices from veterans who had passed and study them and help prevent deaths in the future. Basically, their families would send us their phones and tablets and computers and so forth, and we would anonymize the data and then just study just a massive amount of behavioral data points to understand what patterns led up to their deaths and how we can prevent them in the future. It gave us data that we could then partner with big tech companies to help them understand behaviors maybe on social media. Like the capabilities are still very open for where that can grow and go, but it helps in us understanding user behaviors, but then also it opens up all these new tech partnerships for us as well. And so those were really key in our ability to fundraise and grow. And we did a new story too that was, we were like 3D printing homes, and so we used our models to like study data from, that we'd taken from the community to understand what was needed to develop in the communities, but also like how we can more efficiently print homes, things like that. It was just really cool. But when we used AI to help become more efficient, to again invest in the people who are already doing the work with us. In fact, our teams grew that were doing the impact work, and we were able to use that to fundraise tremendously more. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Ultimately, adapting isn't just about tactics. It's about mindset. To thrive in this moment, fundraisers have to lead with curiosity and creativity and a willingness to rethink the way we work. So Colin, for you, what's a mindset shift you've made or encouraged on your team that helped you navigate recent challenges? Can you share one change that helped unlock new support or improve how you fundraise?
So the mindset change that we took, and this may be worth writing down, asking is only 20% of fundraising. Asking is only 20% of fundraising. So when we look at our fundraising program, what I ask of my staff, we are also looking at engagement. How do we get people in our door and interested in our mission? We're looking at how we're listening to our donors, whether it's through surveying, through me making phone calls, through those sorts of things, what we can learn. We're looking at how we're celebrating our donors. So how are we saying thank you? How are we taking the acts of generosity that are coming in at the store and saying, wow, this really made a difference. Thank you so much. And then we're looking at how we report back to our donors the impact that their gifts are making. And I do think that is a pretty fundamental mindset change when we think of asking is a very important part, but also proportionately a small part of how we fundraise. And so what would this look like in practice? Well, I mean, we've committed now to thank every donor within 48 hours of a gift coming in. And depending on the size of the gift, that might be a phone call from me, it may be a personal video, but things that kind of break through the noise of all of the emails and the asks they're getting to really say, you matter and the store knows you, we care about you. and those sorts of things. So taking those steps forward to, and it goes back to what I was talking about earlier, rather than looking at our donors and our funders as ATMs, looking at them as partners, yes, that are willing to hear your ask for, but also want to celebrate with you, that want to be listened to, that want to be reported back to. And when all of those things come together, it may not change your fundraising overnight, but we have to be in it for the long game. And when you do this ongoing, you're always saying thank you, you're always reporting back, you will start to see your fundraising grow for the long term, and you'll see better long-term results.
Yeah, back to the basics. And I love the fact that you said you matter. We say that to the children we serve, right? When did we last say it to our donors? That's powerful. Thank you. Miranda, in tech, we often hear the phrase fail fast as a path to innovation. What can nonprofits learn from that mindset, and what shifts can help teams become more data-informed and more adaptive? Because like you say, Colin, we have to be able to see the donor and express our cause to them in a way that breaks through the noise. And that's what tools like AI and digital, low-cost digital marketing tools can help us do. So how do we embrace that idea of innovation?
Yeah, I would say that there's never been a time where these tools are more accessible to everyone, right? Almost anyone in this room could become a programmer right now. If we just sat down for half an hour and I showed you some AI tools, you could make your first software program if you wanted to, right? And so these tools are available and they are very accessible. Some of them are free, even, or run locally on your own laptop. And so this slogan of fail fast, I kind of hate sometimes, but so I will say with a disclaimer, it is greatly applied in some areas and not so great in other areas, right? But I think the basic feeling of that is really great. Like it is okay to try something new and then it not work. But it's good to try new things. And when we're talking about innovating with AI, you don't have to start by investing thousands of dollars into Amazon Web Services to get a cloud server up for your, you don't have to start with that. You can start with, what if I help ideate a budget with AI, or what if this helps me find other partners that I can work with, or so you can really start there. You can and all of the content to learn about is out there, right? You could, like I said, we have open office hours for anyone on Fridays at Vanderbilt. But I mean, you can look this stuff up, you can meet with people, you can really learn how to use this stuff, and then it's not so scary once you learn about it, right? A lot of it is very approachable. We have people come to our workshops that have never programmed a day in their life, have never touched ChatGPT, and then by the end of this workshop, they're leaving with like something that identifies birdsong. Like that is something we actually had happen. And so, there's really no limit to what you can try. And I think having that culture of trying, culture of curiosity is really important if you're wanting to innovate.
Thank you so much. I think as a fundraiser, I only just started using ChatGPT recently. But what has been so useful for me just in AI in general has been helping myself through brain blocks, like when you just are, you've been at it for a while and it's like, I'm sorry, I got nothing. There's nothing left in my tank. ChatGPT, we've named her Jen. I know there's a danger in personalizing it, but I've tried to recognize Jen as a bot. But can you help me out here? And it does that for me. So the openness to doing that has helped me do my job and spend time on things that truly matter and can push this cause forward. Cameron, you work with organizations rethinking how they engage and grow. What's one shift fundraisers need to make to stay relevant and truly step into the role of the curious innovator?
That would be to test and learn everything. So you can do that like never before with AI, right? You can load in every email you've sent that was really successful, and fundraising appeal and social posts and add all these things into it and say, hey, look, what's the formula? What works best here? Here are the ones that didn't do well. Here are the ones that did great. Here are the ones that raised the most money. Here are the ones that got the least engagement, whatever. And it can help you find those formulas. I actually did this before AI when I was a social media manager early in my career. And I was working with an organization called IJM. And I remember studying our social posts and seeing like, okay, there are these posts, these, you kind of hinted at this earlier, Colin, but like what I call celebration posts, ones that show your impact. They we get to like show when someone was rescued, when someone's freed up, things like that, right? And so I saw that those posts got like a little more engagement than anything else, and I thought, okay, well, let's see what's good about them. Like, why do people like them? And again, this is a social media example, but it applies to any version of what you would do in marketing, digital fundraising, and that stuff. But basically, I could see we got like maybe like somewhere between 800 and 1,000 likes on one of those posts, and they maybe reached like 10 or 20,000 people, which was great. I was excited about that, but I was like, we can do that. We can do better. And so I just started analyzing every element of the post. I broke down. I always wanted to be more creative. I can't paint, so I'm like, all right, well, I love math. Let's break down every creative thing as if it were a math problem. And so, if you can relate, if you're like you love spreadsheets like I do, like I love it. And so I just created this big spreadsheet of every creative element: photo versus video, tall photo versus wide photo versus square photo. What's in the photo? Are there people? Is it landscapes? Is it cityscape? Is it, what's going on? Are we showing the impact? Are we showing donors? Are we showing people we're serving? What's in it, right? What is on it? Are we writing text on top of it? If there is text, how many characters is that? How many words? What words work well in the caption? How long is that? What hashtags are we using? Are we using hashtags? Are we using emojis? Is that our thing? Like we're just figuring it all out, right? And so I just broke down every little thing, and I started to realize, okay, well, when we put text on photos, we actually get 80% higher engagement. Okay, so we're going to do that from now on. We made it really clear in the first sentence what we were celebrating or why people would engage with the post. We saw it even more when we started using a certain character length and showed, we saw that tall photos work better. I mean, it makes sense too. It's like, okay, it's taking it more landscape in the actual feed. When we started studying the emotions that we were putting into it, like what are we trying to evoke here? Like what's the tone here? And every little element, and it just started growing from 1,000, like a couple thousand likes. I was like, I actually had a little whiteboard next to me, and I was like, write down, our top post is 2,140 likes, and I was just like, this is great, we're growing. And then it was 3, and then it was 4, and then it was 5,000. I couldn't believe when we hit 5,000, I was like, we have quintupled. Like, this is amazing. Like, it was in a year we had quintupled the engagement, and those posts were now reaching like 50,000 to 100,000. Then we started getting posts that would reach 10,000, that would get like 10,000 likes, like 20,000 engagements, 30, 40, 50,000 engagements, and the posts that would reach millions of people because we just kept studying each of those data points. What's cool is that I still have the spreadsheet. I just use AI now to like make it so much smarter, and you can use Zapier or any kind of thing that's going to automate things coming in, and it syncs to Google Sheets, and then it brings in a new post, and then and you can use this for headlines and subject lines in your emails, and you can use this for landing page copy, and you just test and learn everything. And then obviously the very simplest is you don't need a big spreadsheet like me. You can just say, hey, read all of these things. You just add a document and upload it into it and say like, analyze what all the similarities. What should we start using? What should we do? Longer appeals work better or shorter? Do subject lines with this word in it work better versus that? And we just test and learn all of those little things. And so, I would just recommend always. I literally do it if I like send a LinkedIn message to somebody. I will be like test like could you get coffee soon, or would actually works better, just so you guys know. Like, I test every little thing. And I'll tell you, like, it's wild to see those little tiny things. Something as simple as like just changing the words and what's in the photo and what's on the photo and how many characters and things like that. You would think like, oh, that might make a little difference. No, we went from getting 1,000 likes to 50,000 likes in like 18 months. It was really wild. So yeah.
Can I borrow that spreadsheet?
All right, so I know we got in here a little bit late, so I'm going to change up the closing format of this. I would like us to just dive into questions. Do you have questions for any of our panelists today? I'm going to bring the mic over to you, so just raise your hand if you have a question. Jessica.
Hi. So my question has to do with AI. I know AI is very, very popular right now, but I also know that sometimes there can be a bias with AI. How do you combat some kind of confirmation bias or anything when using AI?
I'm going to hand this to you, Miranda.
Yeah, so I would say there's always bias. There's no way to get rid of bias. And people like to say, oh, these are really smart and we have perfect data and now we got rid of the bias, and that's very false. So there will always be a bias, and I would say it depends on the context of what you're trying to do. There's a lot of different ways you can go. Acknowledging that there is a bias inherent in that is good. Also seeing where does your data come from. I think that's the most useful place to search for bias, because once you find out that, you can kind of see, like with a lot of these models, how are they trained? Well, ChatGPT was first trained on basically every text free available on the internet. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen something perhaps biased on the internet before. But even just from like what's on the internet, who uses the internet, what do the people who use the internet say, right? And so once you put that in your frame of mind, then it makes more sense what ChatGPT says, right? Same with any kind of model, even our earliest image models. The advent of photography in general was not including people of color. And then image models as well. One of the biggest companies that was exploring image models, a tech company that was composed of mostly white people, right? How did they train? They asked for their pictures of their family members. And they literally were just like, submit photos for your work to like train our models. And that's how they got those photos with permissions. And so that naturally excluded people, right? And so knowing that is the first step to addressing it, right? So if you're using some sort of model and you're like, this should speak for everyone, well, know that it doesn't, and then find ways that it doesn't, and find how you can combat that. So I would really say it depends on the context. So if I know a specific context, I can probably give a little more specific of an answer there.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. Molly.
So I work at a nonprofit with a staff of 5 full-time employees, no dedicated fundraising department, no development team. So just in general, what are your like top 3 or 5 like hit points that somewhere like my organization can actually realistically accomplish better fundraising?
Colin, I'll start with you and then pass it to Cameron.
Yeah, I mean, I would start with your most important supporters and the people that have been with you kind of for the longest or are most kind of all in your mission. And the kind of 5 things I talked about, celebrating, informing, start with them. And even if it's at a very small scale, you'll probably get the most kind of bang for your buck for people that are already heavily invested in your mission. But as you're doing that, be thinking about what it would be like to grow that. So if you have some success there, maybe you can look at a part-time fundraiser or something like that and starting to, get buy-in from a board to do that. But I would definitely start with the people closest to your mission, but still doing those steps right that I talked about. So, yeah.
Yeah, I always think of something that a friend of mine who works at the Washington Post always says. He would talk about doing 70% of what works and what you're already doing, and do 20% of like trying to find, trying all these new strategies that people are using AI, whatever, right? And 10% trying to think to the future where nobody's thinking, right? And I think that's really important. I've actually made mistakes over the years as a digital marketer, say like, oh, well, we don't need that print thing anymore or something, right? And then I'm like, oh, shoot, I did not realize that was going to affect us that way. I think it's really important to recognize that old things still work really well if you can do them well, but you can apply really new strategies to them. So like, even if we're going to do direct mail, I'm going to A/B test every single thing I can, right? Even if we're going to do, I guess I don't think I've ever done a billboard, but maybe you guys have. That's great. Test it, whatever. I don't know. But I would just say, like, it's important to recognize that it's not just about like dropping everything you're doing and just doing all the new stuff, right? It's really about trying to identify methodically the things that aren't serving you, like that are not actually working. Because I think so often you could actually get rid of so much just by asking the question, like, are you just doing this thing because someone told you you're supposed to do it? I can't tell you, as a consultant, I get to walk into organizations and to follow the breadcrumb trail of like why someone's doing this obscure thing that is taking them so much time, and then they present it to everyone, and I'm just like, okay, so why did anyone gain anything from that? Why are we asking her to do this? And you're like, oh, because someone who doesn't work here anymore told me to do it. So identifying those things will save you a tremendous amount of time as well.
I just want to jump in real quick. When Delta Dental first started contributing to what was at the time Governor's Books from Birth Foundation, there were less than 5 people. There was not a development person. I was working directly with the CEO to come up with the ideas for where our funding would be used. So don't discount being small but mighty, because you can accomplish a lot. And how many colleagues do you have now, Abby?
In the fundraising?
Or no, just in the organization.
15 to 18.
So triple growth.
Yeah.
And which is amazing. So don't discount what you can do. Somebody mentioned relationships. Make sure you've got the right people and the right relationships. Don't necessarily hand those over to somebody else. So keep drilling down on those. Those are your very loyal funders. So keep those going and stick with it. Again, digital media is the great equalizer. So many tools out there are free for you to use and to play with and experiment with. Talk to Cameron, get his email from Abby because he knows what they all are. I'm going to be following up on that. But you don't have to have huge budgets. You don't have to have huge staffs. There's a lot that you can do. It's just being focused on how are we going to make an impact in our community.
And I was the first development person on staff at the foundation. I've only been there 4 years. And we've been in existence since 2004. So I would also say that for fundraisers and anyone really, separate the nice to-dos from the have-to-dos. You know, really get down to the core of what do I have to do today, and recognize that good enough is not bad. Good enough is just that. It's good enough. Give yourself some grace, but really try to connect with the donor. So we're going to close on questions. I do want to mention a couple of tools and resources that I want you all to be aware of. There's a couple of podcasts. Fundraising AI is a really great podcast that you might want to look into, as well as What the Fundraising. That's another good one. And then I'm reading a book right now called Nonprofit AI by Nathan Chappell and Scott Rosenkrantz. They're the brains behind the Fundraising AI podcast. It's really, really interesting. So do check out those things. I'm going to just, I want you all to leave with these questions. These were the breakout questions, so we don't have time to navigate now. But the question of how are you adapting? So ask yourself, how am I adapting? What fundraising challenge am I facing right now? And how can I innovate to turn that into an opportunity? So I'm going to let the panelists close us out real quick down the line. One sentence from each of you. What's one piece of advice you would give to fundraisers who want to adapt to advance in this changing landscape?
Be clear on your messaging and do the basics over and over again really well.
Amen to that. Do your homework, find alignment, and get your board to help you.
If you negotiate, you can get crazy deals on software. So, yeah, message me on LinkedIn. I'll tell you how. Okay.
I would say lean into creativity and trends and innovation, because those often are the ones that get funded first.